Hi, Whitney and Sheila. How are you?
Fabulous.
Very
Fabulous.
good. Very good.
You are both teachers.
Yes.
Would you like to introduce yourselves?
I am Sheila Hatfield. I am the elementary art teacher here. I teach pre-kindergarten, so 4-year-olds through 5th grade, which is around 9, 10 years old, or 10, 11.
I'm Whitney Fland, and I teach UPK through 5 music, and I'm also the choral director and the elementary drama club director.
How long have you been with this school?
This is my 11th year, but I've been teaching 14 years altogether.
This is my 14th year here, and I've been teaching 16 years altogether.
Whitney, you've been doing this for 14 years, but you've been training as a singer for a long, long time.
Yes, I have been. I have taken private voice lessons since I was in middle school and all throughout high school, and went to college and also went to grad school for vocal music education.
You are also the daughter of a well-known artist, a sculptor. Did that
Yes.
influence you in any way to become an artist yourself?
I think so. And I know definitely to be a teacher. And in high school is when I really thought to be a teacher, but my dad, like his parents, always taught me how to look at art. And I've always had a strong love for music. And I decided to put those two together.
May I ask, are you a soprano, an alto? What are you?
I'm a soprano, always been a soprano. I have, throughout my studies, I also studied with a soprano as well.
Do you favor certain parts?
When I was younger, I loved singing soprano 1, which is the higher part. And as I have gotten older, I have really loved singing harmonies, just to create that dimension within the music and hearing the different chords and everything move about. And that's something that I do. I'll be in the car and the radio or Pandora will be playing, and I could be singing along with the melody, but I find myself harmonizing just because it's fun. And it's good ear training too.
What's it like to be a vocal teacher?
It's the best. I absolutely love it. I love sharing my passion with the kids, things that I have learned throughout my studies and even just growing up. It has been a true gift. I've always loved children. They have so much life and curiosity. I knew from a pretty young age that I was going to be a teacher. Like my father, thought about going into science. My love for music was so strong that I decided to become a music teacher.
What do you do as a teacher?
I will teach the kids different musical concepts like the ones back here. I'll teach them the proper technique of singing. With the younger ones, we focus on listening, keeping the beat, learning different instruments. I have 3 ensembles, a 4th grade chorus, a 5th grade chorus, and a select ensemble. So we work on blending, listening to each other, and working as a team. You can see the progress they make throughout the years. And since I do teach all the grade levels here. It's fun to see how they've grown each year with what they've been learning. And it's a continuous, like what we call a spiral curriculum, building upon previous knowledge.
We live in a time where we have American Idol, Perfect Pitch, Glee. It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. It's a lot of dedication, a lot of training, especially when it comes to learning the proper vocal technique as to best showcase your voice and to sing in a healthy manner with all the different things that surround vocal pedagogy. I've been studying, like I said, since middle school privately. In my undergraduate studies, I had a voice teacher at school. We lessons weekly, practice every day. And in grad school as well, we had lessons weekly, practicing every day, working on the technique that we've learned. And as you get older, your voice does change. So with that, how to work with that, because as we get older, our voice will change. Mine is going through a changing process right now, and I've actually started taking voice lessons again with my teacher from undergrad and grad school.
What instruments do you play?
I play a lot. Growing up, obviously voice, but I've also played clarinet. I've been playing that since fourth grade. I do play piano. I'm not Mozart or anything, but I do love to play piano. And in my studies, a lot of positions, like vocal music positions, may have beginner band attached to it. So I've had courses and training on different instruments that kids could start in elementary school. So saxophone, percussion, flute. I've also had some training on string instruments as well, trumpet, trombone. We have the basic knowledge to get kids started on that. But I here only do the vocal music section. We have an instrumental teacher as well.
Do you have children who are tone deaf?
I wouldn't say tone deaf. They're developing their ear. So with that, and that's where I help guide them, listening to different notes, listening to different rhythms. I wouldn't say tone deaf because they're really, at this age, they're starting to listen and really hear their sound. I wouldn't say tone deaf.
How do you work with the children with special abilities?
I incorporate them 110%. They come to music every day, and they also are in chorus as well if they choose to be. And any way that I can incorporate them, whether they love to sing, they love to make music with all the different classroom instruments I have, like xylophones, percussion. I work closely with their teacher to make sure that I accommodate them the best I can. And so it's really a collaboration amongst all teachers here.
I also read an article where you were together with another teacher were working on a musical. This is completely different from just working a song. How do you do that?
We start early. There's, like I said, choreography, there's costumes, there's vocal training, there's teaching the kids how to act and how to perceive a character and translate that onto the stage for the audience. And, a lot of times you'll have a choreographer, a assistant director, a vocal director. I have done a lot of vocal directing. And with the director, and you also have the sound and lighting director. So it's definitely a collaboration. We'll split things up where we will focus maybe on just vocals while another group is working on blocking. So where they move on the stage, or choreography. If we're working on, let's say, scenes 1 through 3, I might be working on vocals with someone who's in scenes 4, 5, and 6. And then we'll flip and then put it all together and do chunks at a time. It's really important to do chunks at a time and not the whole thing. That way the kids can learn it, practice it, work on it before moving on to the next segment.
You have classical training. If you're listening to the music today, you also listen to a lot of auto-tuning, synthesizing. What do you think about that?
It's a style. It is definitely a different style. Um, but in the end, if you think back to it, a lot of how music is written and how there are different forms of music. You know, you have verse, chorus. You'll have an A section, a B section, a rondo form. If you listen to a lot of the music, especially like within vocal music, we'll see that theory, musical theory and technique that was developed hundreds of years ago. With autotune, it's definitely a different thing. You know, it's also the time period too. It's, you know, what's in style. I listen to everything. I do enjoy my classical music. I do enjoy my rock and pop music and my jazz. I think right now it's the style of the times. I've also seen music from generations ago start to make its way back in and become popular again.
Do you take private students?
I have in the past, yes. Myself, like I said before, it's been, I would say, about 10 years since I took a voice lesson. And over Christmas break, I started taking voice lessons again and becoming the student instead of the teacher. When I do take private voice lessons or students on, from what I have learned, not only in my lessons, but in my training, I can translate it to them as well.
I spoke with a vocal teacher a few years ago, and she said that her students do not necessarily need to read notes. Is that true? You don't need to read notes?
You don't, but for me, I find it important because that is all part of the music process. In my opinion, it's important to see, because a lot of times with phrasing, with different songs, you'll find that the accompaniment or the different note patterns will follow that line. And let's say I'm working with someone and I'm not available, if they have, like, they can go online and, you know, pull up a virtual piano, or if they have a piano at their home, they can plunk out the notes, you know, to make sure they're in the correct key. So I find, for me personally, reading music is crucial. And that's where I come in to help the kids and help others learn to read music and show them the patterns and that go along with lyrics or other instruments.
With the rising of artificial intelligence and all this technology, do you feel that this helps or might interfere?
You know, I haven't thought about that, to be perfectly honest. I'm personally am very much, I want to be person to person. I want the student to be in front of me so I can help them and I can see what they're doing. There are lots of things that are virtual that I feel are great, especially if you're working with someone who may be across the country or in a different country. The option of doing Zoom, which I think is great. I'm very much an in-person type of teacher.
You do traveling shows?
I haven't done any traveling shows. I do love to travel. I've gone to different countries where I've gone to listen to different concerts. When I was in Austria, I went to a classical concert in Vienna, which was fabulous. Past summer, I was in Greece and went to listen to some local music, which was fantastic. I love doing that because then I can bring that and incorporate that into my own teaching, which is great. When I was in college, the entire choral union and the orchestra, we did go and sing the Verdi Requiem at Lincoln Center in New York City, which was an experience all in itself. As far as traveling shows where I've been in a show, I haven't, but like a choral group I have been in college, I guess you could say during our spring break, my senior year, we traveled to some different states and sang our repertoire for the community, which was fantastic. And that was so much fun to go around with not only my classmates, but my professor and share our love that we have for music and storytelling, because a lot of music is also storytelling. You may have a classical piece that's just instrumental, but there is a story behind it. And sometimes you can create your own story. I recently was just with my kids, my younger kids. I put on a piece. Actually, I put on the Four Seasons by Vivaldi, and I had them listen to the winter section since it's winter. And I had them draw what came to mind. And it's cool to see what they perceive of the music and everything, which is wonderful.
What are you working on right now?
With my fifth graders, I am working on musical theater since we do have our show coming up. We're doing Peter Pan. So we're learning the different aspects of the stage, acting, presenting a character. In fourth grade, we're actually working on different composers. So each student has a different composer and they learn about the life of that composer. And we actually create a little travel guide, which is very cool. So I'll be displaying that once we've completed that. Third grade is working on recorders. So they're learning how to play recorders. They're beginning to learn how to read the notes on the staff. Second grade's working on the different instrument families right now. We're in the woodwind family. We'll also learn about the science of sound, solfege, so do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And UPK, KN1 are right now learning about tone colors, identifying instruments based on their sound through different games, different activities, drawing, which is what I love when I can incorporate that with Sheila. Each year it builds upon. So the younger ones will learn about, they may not learn exactly what G looks like on the staff, but they'll learn that, as you go up, the pitch gets higher. As it goes down, the pitch gets lower. And so it's building upon their knowledge each year.
Hi, Sheila.
Hi.
You've been an artist for how many years?
I started becoming interested in art at a very young age. I remember going to my room a lot as a child, and kind of separating myself and drawing a lot and scraping materials from around my house. And I grew up on a farm and scraping materials from around the farm to try to just hold together little craft projects for myself. And that's what I did. I spent a lot of time. I've always been an introverted, quiet person. And I spent a lot of time as a child, I guess, isolating a little bit and just spending a lot of time in that artistic process.
What is your medium?
I am a watercolorist. I've been doing watercolor since high school. When I was a senior, my art teacher, who actually happened to be best friends with Stephen Fland, Whitney's father. And so I knew Mr. Fland. He was my science teacher. My art teacher was my mentor, best friends. And so I got to learn from them and hang out with them and get all their cool ideas. He taught me how to watercolor, and I've been doing that ever since. Just recently, I've started to put the watercolors down a little bit and go back to drawing and using charcoal and colored pastel and things like that. But mostly watercolors. I do a lot of pet portraits right now because I love animals. I love dogs and cats. And
When you do a pet portrait, do you work on a photo or do you have the animal in front of you?
no, I work from photo. Typically I like to take the photo myself, but if I'm doing a portrait for a friend, I might ask them to send me like their best quality photos to work from. They have to be really high resolution so I can see all the details. And I watched Steve Fland's interview that you did with him, and one of the things that he talked about was really knowing how to look and observe, and that's really what that is. Really being able to notice the details, and that's what I do a lot with my students is, let's slow down, what can you see? Like, really, really look. And that's how you get better at drawing and painting and sculpture. And really, that's the foundation, is being able to observe and really see.
How do you connect children with drawing, painting?
I will say that kids really are naturally inclined to pretty much anything I put in front of them. Um, I started out as a middle school art teacher, and there was more trouble at that age getting them hooked and connected. But when I came here to be an elementary teacher, I didn't realize how much enthusiasm children would have, small children. There is almost no effort that I have to put into getting them excited. They are already excited. They are so happy to come into my classroom and do anything that I put in front of them. It feels like they love to draw, they love to paint. I don't know that they necessarily get as much time to do that on their own at home, maybe the way that we did when we were kids. I mean, some of doing art as a child for me came out of boredom. I mean, there was not constant stimulation around me. I didn't have a phone with, games, and I didn't have a TV with a million channels. So, I mean, you did things to occupy yourself, and I think creativity is just so natural to children. I think that it's more something that you have to fight to hold on to as you get older. It's really natural for kids.
Let's talk about the palette. Are you favoring more earth tones, more bright colors?
If you look at some of my pet portraits, I just kind of I look at that animal, and usually I know the animal, and I'm trying to figure out what's going to go with their personality. So, one of my favorite paintings is of actually my white German Shepherd who passed, and he had a very stoic look to him. So I did his in this like just like a black and white look, and it just showed that personality of being like very like regal and stoic and brave. Um, and then there's a one that I did of this little, I think she's like a little Pomeranian Shih Tzu, and she had this like very sweet personality. So she's very pastel-y, like the background is like a pastel-y bluish purple. So I try to incorporate their personalities and their colors into um, those types of things when I'm painting them, and also to just like get some contrast and colors that pop off each other and create interest in the painting, I guess.
Do you take the children on field trips for plein air painting?
Going outside, usually it's special groups. The weather is very unpredictable here in upstate New York. So we don't, it's hard to plan that in. But certainly we have, and it's probably something that we would do more toward the end of the school year when the weather breaks and we get some more sunshine. But yeah, we've done outdoor drawing before. I've also taken kids on field trips. We did several, probably 5 or 6 years in a row, where I took third grade every year to the Johnson Museum of Art in Ithaca on Cornell campus. And that was a really great experience for them. And I think, my goal was not every kid is going to have the museum experience. So if I can just isolate a grade level each year, and I make sure I take that grade level every single year, every kid that goes through my program will have a museum experience. And that kind of got stymied when COVID started. So the museum shut down, and it took a long time for them to get up and running again. And I think they just kind of got back in full force maybe last year. So it's something I'd like to pick up again, but it's only about a half-hour drive from this school, but it does take some resources, but it's important, and I think that those kids who went through that um, really benefited from that.
Do you have children who are colorblind or have various abilities?
Sure. Yeah, I do have quite a few kids who are colorblind, although I won't necessarily know it. My own two children are colorblind. I have a boy and a girl who are both colorblind. but it's not something that you would necessarily know. Um, it doesn't present itself as easily as you would think because they don't know that they're seeing things differently than someone who sees full color. They don't know. They've never seen anything different. So it's not like they're going to say, wait, I think something's wrong here. They don't know that there's anything wrong unless their parents are taking them every year to, get their health checkups. And I mean, I was completely shocked when I found out that both of my children were colorblind, because they were identifying colors when they were toddlers. But they were identifying a muted form of red than what I was seeing, but they don't know that. So yeah, I do have kids that are like that, and it is very rarely um, become an issue. I think it's more that things just look more muted to them than they do to me. Um, but I do teach kids with a lot of varying abilities. The arts in this what we call the special areas in this school, music, art, PE, are really some of the only places that kids with special needs are fully integrated. Um, they may not and mostly will not go into a regular classroom into math and ELA, English and writing and reading. But they will come into art, music, and physical education, and we do incorporate them 100%. And usually they'll have someone to help them based on their needs. But yeah, it is the perfect place for them to be.
How would a typical art class be? Do you come with a topic or it's just something that they choose?
No, I have a curriculum, just like Whitney talked about. I wrote it myself. There really isn't in the United States, or at least not in New York State. There's not one curriculum that is, handed to you and they say, okay, you're going to cover this, that, and the other thing. Really, it's up to the art teacher in the school district to kind of map that out. And I'm the only elementary art teacher here, so I've spent the last 14 years building this curriculum and changing it. And it's something that, builds upon itself, builds upon their skill level. And the thing with art is each project that I do is going to be multifaceted. There's going to be a lot of different type of learning. So there's going to be skill learning, okay, like kindergartners learning how to cut, but there's also going to be materials exploration. So they're doing a collage, and there's going to be, they're going to be introduced to an artist or an art style. Or what I'm doing with kindergarten and first grade right now, there's a literary element. So we read the book Annie and the Wild Animals by Jan Brett, who does beautiful artwork in her books. And then we're looking at that style and copying that style. So there's always these layers to each art lesson. And the idea is that as they go from pre-kindergarten all the way up to fifth grade, we're building on these skills and these topics and these ideas. And just trying to give them like a very well-rounded, like varied exposure, because art is so vast, right? I mean, there's so many different mediums, there's so many different things that people do in art and ways that people approach art. So getting all of that in is really, it's tricky. But yeah, I mean, we do painting, we do printmaking, we do video art, we do digital drawing, we do ceramics work, we do fibers. So, I mean, just getting as much exposure as possible while they're here with me for these 7 years. That's kind of my goal.
About your art, do you show your art?
Not regularly, I would say. I do a lot of portraiture for friends and gifting, but I will put a piece in a show usually once a year. So I think I sent you a couple of paintings that, placed in a show.
I was wondering if Whitney could come back in. So you mentioned that there are some projects that you do together.
Was it last year? I think we did a display to open the school year where it was really about the arts versus like some of the more like core subject areas. So we just did a whole thing on like how art and music intersect, visual art, theater, dance, and all that. And one of the things that we put in the display was how Miss Fland is on her own time, she likes to do art.
Mhm.
And for me, on my own time, I like to do a lot of music. I play guitar and I sing, and I'm just a lover of music, and she's a lover of art. And I think the kids just find it fascinating that we love each other's subject areas so much, and it's because they intersect so much. And if you come in my art room, I'm always playing music. And if you come in her music room, she's always got kids drawing. Um, and also the kids know that we're like best buds here, like we're good friends. So
We really are.
and sometimes they call us by each other's names. So I think we do a really good job with that and letting kids know how much these two subjects overlap and how important they are in our lives.
For sure. I know. And the kids find it interesting that, like Sheila said, on our free time, we do the opposite. So I'll be doing what Sheila does, and Sheila does what I do. And sometimes during lunch, if I'm in Sheila's room and kids are on their way to their afternoon special, whether it be art, music, I'll pop out of her room, and they're like taken aback as to what are you doing here? I'm like, we're best friends, guys. Like, are you teaching art today? I was like, no, but maybe one day we'll do a flip-flop.
We've joked about that.
Yeah.
That we'll just do a switcher on them someday.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that makes our situation special here, not only that we're best friends and we really love each other's subject area, but also we have the same philosophy and on arts education, and that is that really at the end of the day, when they leave us, we really want them to leave here loving art and music.
Yes.
I mean, if they don't become the best drawers or the most skilled musicians, we would at least like them to leave here being very excited about art and music and, curious and wanting to continue and to never have a bad taste in their mouth. I mean, this is really about cultivating a love of these subject matters.
Yes.
And I think we both do that really well. And I'm really proud of that.
At the end of the day, some kids, they may be having a bad day. And then if they leave art or music or the other specials with a smile, I know that, it's a win. And if like Sheila said, being more curious and wanting to know more. And that's huge. If they have a good time in music and art, then we know that we've done a good job that day, for sure.
What do you think about music therapy or art therapy?
I think it's wonderful. I know there are art, music therapy programs out there, and it's a wonderful thing, especially for kids that need a different way to express their emotions or figure out what sort of emotions they are feeling inside. And I've always been a huge fan of music therapy.
Yeah, same. I had a senior from high school that came down last year every day and would help out with one of my classes. And she was planning on studying art therapy in college, and that's where she is right now in her freshman year. And it's incredibly promising. Fairly new, but it makes complete sense. I hope it becomes very widely popular. And just from what we see here with young kids who have a lot of emotional and behavioral struggles, we see how much art and music is helpful to them and the joy that it brings to them, or the release, or the just the positive feelings that they get from coming to our classes. Why wouldn't that translate as they get older and need that kind of help and therapy? it makes complete sense. And I hope that it becomes more widely popular
Agreed.
and accessible.
Yes.
I spoke with other teachers and they told me that some of them had some funding problems for, resources, supplies, different things. Do you have those kind of issues?
I don't feel like I have a problem here
No.
in our school district. I feel like our administration is very supportive of the arts, and we're lucky.
Yes.
We know that we're lucky. I've never felt like I couldn't buy something or do something I needed to do. I do my own fundraiser, every year, and I do make extra money so that I can really do some cool things. But even what I'm given from my school district, the support is really great. And I think, this is a small town, and our administration, they live here, they have kids that go to school here and grandkids, and they really want the best for their children, and they know, that what we're doing is important. So yeah, we're very fortunate.
Yeah, most definitely. Like Sheila said, I haven't had an issue. If it was for the kids and to better the program, the administration has been supremely supportive. Other teachers have been supremely supportive. The community has been supportive. Also, too, with it being a smaller community, our teams are also, a little bit smaller as opposed to if you go to a larger city where you could have 15 in a music department or 15 in an art department. We can collaborate a lot with our other colleagues. And I know the instrumental teacher and I, a lot of times we will, if we are looking for materials, it'll be something that we both can use. And that's just, it is supremely important. Like collaboration is huge. And I know there have been times I've gone to Sheila's room and I'm like, can I borrow a glue stick?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, fortunately, I have a, very reasonable budget, and I do have,
Same.
A lot of teachers in the school will come and ask for supplies, and I'm fortunate enough to be able to give them out because I want them to be able to do art projects in their classrooms, and, the more the better. So, but, there's also, this kind of fluctuation in the aid that we get from New York State, and we are coming into a tough time, where some of the foundation aid is being cut. So, I don't know what's going to happen in the next few years. We did have a part-time art teacher that was cut probably 13 years ago.
mhm.
And that we did feel the effects of that. And things have been good over the last few years. So I don't know what's going to happen going into this tough budget season, but I do know that we have the support of the community and the school board and our administration. So
Yes.
hopefully we'll weather the storm.
Yeah, and I've had teachers come to me and asking, can I borrow a tambourine for an activity we're doing? Most definitely. I have tambourines or a xylophone or maracas, and it's anything that a teacher needs, and I have no problem letting others borrow if they come to me saying, do you have this? Can I borrow a triangle for this activity as, an attention getter? Most definitely. Most definitely.
A lot of the children that I seen, they loved arts and they wanted to be artists. However, their parents always thought, well, yeah, that's okay at this age, but I want him a lawyer, I want him a doctor, I want him a teacher. Nobody wants a starving artist. So how do you feel about being an artist today?
I feel from a visual art standpoint, there are so many jobs to be had, especially in graphic arts. I don't feel like anyone needs to be concerned about getting a job. If they thought that the only option was to, paint and exhibit in galleries, then that's where the problem lies, because there are many art jobs. And one of the things that I talk to kids about is, look around the room. and tell me if you can find something that wasn't designed by an artist first. I mean, you can't do it. Even, the clothes that you wear were designed by an artist. So, um, this is a conversation that I have with parents. You know, I work with younger students, so I don't get to have those conversations a lot. But I had, like I said, I had two seniors that came down and helped me out last year, and those were conversations that I could have with those kids going into college, that if this is what you want to do, you will find a job. You don't need to be worried about it. And when I was 18 years old going to college, my parents weren't thrilled about it. But my high school art teacher really, really saved me. And he had my parents come in and he sat them down and he said, she can do this. And they supported me. But without his support, I wouldn't be where I am.
From a music standpoint, same thing. There are many, many professions out there in the music world, whether it's, producing music, writing music for commercials or other forms of media, music therapy, like you mentioned before, there's the teaching aspect. There's also voiceover work. And there's, because a lot of times, it's like I'm going to stand up and I'm going to be on the stage and be a performer and everything. And, there are a lot of positions and different opportunities within the music realm as well. And thinking about it, actually, I remember, and it was actually an art teacher too, my high school art teacher, my senior year when I was 18. While my dad was an educator, so that was kind of in my blood, I knew that when I was going to go into music, that I wanted to do probably more of the performance. And then I remember it was a ceramics class, and my teacher, she was helping someone, and another student in my class was having problems. So I went over and helped them, and she was observing me, showing them how to work the clay on the pottery wheel. And she pulled me aside and said, have you ever thought about teaching music? Now I knew I was going to go into music, and, teaching, like I said, my dad was a teacher for almost 40 years. And I thought about that and I said, that is a great idea, because not only will I get to share my experience and still perform, but I can also then teach others how to perform, which is amazing in itself, to see kids grow and change and, shape their musical self into what they are today.
It's the beginning of the year. What would you like to see accomplished this year?
I have a show coming up, so I know we're about 2 weeks out, so that's going to be a huge accomplishment this year. We have our concerts in March is Music in Our Schools Month, and we have a huge all-district vocal concert and all-district instrumental concert, where all of the choral students come together and do a ginormous concert, and also all the instrumentalists in the district will come together and put on a large concert. And we also have our spring concert coming up in May, which is always a blast. And it's great because you can also, again, see how the kids have progressed from their December concert to their March concert to their May concert. And in tandem, too, what's also great is Sheila will have her art show up for the parents to enjoy at the same time.
As the art teacher here, I'm kind of, with 7 grade levels, I'm kind of juggling a lot of things. And one of the things that's coming up actually tomorrow, we have a lot of student artwork that is being displayed at a gallery in Auburn, New York. It's called the Schweinfurth Art Center. So there's a very large student display up, and we have probably 50 student artworks there, and the opening will be this weekend. What will accompany that is another show that I have about 10 student artworks in, and that's called the Three Lake Sampler. It's a show that also has a book, and all those kids' artworks will be published in this annual book. And once the book is published, the kids all get to take home 2 copies of that book. At the same time, I have an after-school art club that is making things for various events that are going on around the community. So there's a dance that's coming up tonight that they did the decorations for. We're going to be starting to paint play sets for Whitney's show that's coming up. I also have a video production club that does all video projects. So they do their own writing for their videos. They do interviews. They do all their own video editing. So we're working on those projects. And then I got a fundraiser going on. And we'll have a spring art show, which is a really, big event that has every student throughout the school, which is 400 students. Their artwork will be displayed, and we'll have an opening where it's completely free and open to the community. All the kids come out. We have a ton of fun. We have a magician come and do a show, and we have refreshments, and it's just a good, fun time.
Yes. And in April, we have something that also happens in New York State is there is something called All County and All State. And All County is where a few, depending on the size of the district, so student musicians within that county come together that have prepared music that they've learned. They rehearse together and then they put on a concert for that. So in April, I have some 5th graders who are going to also be partaking in the first elementary all county here in our county. And so that is something I'm looking forward to. So they will be able to not only perform, but also create music with other students their age from other districts.
You've been friends for a very long time. What is one of the earliest memories that you have of you two together?
One of the earliest memories.
That's a good question.
That is a good question. One of the earliest memories I had, not only was I involved in music, but I was also heavily involved in art, in photography too. I remember whenever we had art shows, I would always see Sheila putting up her display as I'm putting up mine or looking at my artwork that my teacher had put up. And
from back in high school.
back in high school, yeah. That's
So
what I remember.
I'm a little bit older than Whitney, so I was probably a senior when you were
I think
freshman.
freshman or sophomore, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Around that.
interesting. That's funny.
Yeah, that's what I remember. And I knew that, Sheila was going into art and I'd always admire her art. She's a fantastic artist. Fantastic. We have some of the same mentors. I know the mentor that she had who is wonderful friends with my dad. I personally didn't have him, but he would always give me feedback. And actually 2 that we had that retired already were so heavily involved with us as well. I just remember art shows in middle school and high school and looking at Sheila's wonderful artwork and seeing all the wonderful things she was creating. So that's what I remember.
We had the best art teachers. So if that has not come across, we had 3 of the best, and they influenced both of us at different times so heavily, and now we're best friends, and I know that it all started back with them. We're just so lucky to be here and hopefully influence our students the way they influenced us.
Yeah.
But one of my earliest memories of Whitney is just her starting here
Nervous.
at this school, and me getting to know her and just feeling so relieved that I was going to have a colleague that was such a nice person who really, I could tell, shared the same philosophy with kids and education and art that I did, and just being thrilled. And honestly, every day and every year since then, it's just gotten more and more special. And I just thank my lucky stars
I know.
every day that she's here.
One of our art teachers had children of her own that were also heavily involved in music. That was also wonderful to have. I had wonderful music teachers here in elementary school and had a wonderful vocal teacher. I still keep in contact with them. One of my private voice teachers now has worked with the Saratoga Opera which is fantastic. And my current voice teacher, who, like I said, I've had since undergraduate and grad school, has been a huge influence and has influenced my teaching greatly. Sheila has influenced my teaching greatly. Our colleague across the hall has. So many teachers here have influenced us. And I know for me too, many of my professors, Ithaca College, where I got my bachelor's and my master's, have influenced me greatly. I thank my lucky stars that, we're still in contact and I can ask them questions. There isn't probably one day where I don't call Sheila's room and be like, hey, what are you doing about this? Or I trot down to her room during lunch or prep period to be like, hey, how do you feel about this? It's important to be close with your colleagues and have that relationship, because that will really not only set up our programs for success, but also set up the whole school for success.
Well said.
Down the road, I know for me, I would, since I love traveling, I would love to do something like a sabbatical where I can go and look at different music classrooms in various schools around the world. I would love that. Having traveled and seeing the different music being produced in other countries, it really has made me very curious as to how other classrooms are run and how their programs are created. And so that's something that I would really like to do in the future, is go around to some other countries and see other public music education classrooms and arts as well in general.
I have two young children who, are just starting to get to an age where I feel like they can start to go on these little travel experiences and start to enjoy this kind of stuff. So actually this summer we're planning a trip to New York City, and that will be their first experience going to the Met and the Guggenheim and things like that. So I'm excited that, my life is now kind of getting to a point where we can start to do those kind of things. When you're teaching full time and you have a baby and a toddler, there's no there's no doing your own art. But over the last 5 years or so, as my kids get older and get more independent, I've been able to get back to that some. It's just the natural cycle of life and things that we go through.
And they're great musicians too, her kids. They're wonderful. Like, I've had them both since kindergarten. One is now in middle school, and the other one is in 4th grade and just starting out with band and chorus, and they're both very talented as well, musically.
And this is, one of the themes that you might pick up on, is that this kind of small town that we live in this community, we went to school here, we're influenced by our teachers, came, left and got our education, came back here, still have my kids here being taught by, my friend and colleague. So we've just got this positive momentum that keeps going. We keep taking care of our own, and it's really cool. It's really special here.
And I also think what says it too is that I taught somewhere else out of college, so did Sheila, and we came back to our hometown to teach because we love it so much. And I think that says a lot also about the community and the schools themselves. Like I said, I've been here this is my 11th year, 14th year overall, and loving every minute of it.
It's an important job.
It's an important job.
Yeah.
And getting it out there, especially in the arts too, because there are some schools that have to cut their arts program. Us being here, we have so much support, and it's wonderful.
Yeah. And our influence is important because we have, if you think every child in our district will go through our programs, because there's only one elementary school. And there's only one art teacher, one vocal music teacher, 400 kids a year go right through our program. So by the time we retire, we will have,
we'll see
thousands of kids that spend 7 years with us.
Yeah.
So, it's not to be taken lightly either,
No, it's
important.
Yeah, it's really important. And especially, we know all of their names, all 400. And
their families.
And their families.
Brothers or sisters or cousins.
Yes. They'll be like, do you know so-and-so? And I know for me, it's quite humorous, but some of my students have had my father as a teacher. We both had my dad as a teacher because he was the only 7th grade science teacher in the middle school, because we like our middle school and high school are combined. I'm now having students who have had their parents or their grandparents have had my dad as a teacher. I'm having now students of kids I've graduated high school with. And so it's fun to see that full circle. My dad taught in this district, and now I'm teaching in this district. So I feel like it's come full circle. And I always get, "Are you Mr. Fland's daughter?" Yes. Yes, I am. And I know, like Sheila mentioned earlier, like sometimes I'll get called Mrs. Hatfield, and they're like, and the other kids will be like, "No, no, no, it's Miss Fland." I'm like, "She's awesome. I take it as a compliment."
That's it. I don't even bat an eye. I'm like, yeah,
I just answer.
yeah,
I
same.
just answer.